Atari is putting out a brand new console. Well, not really brand new. It's actually kind of a remake of the Atari 2600. A lot of people are covering this right now, but I thought it would be fun to actually see what Atari fans are saying and find out what the top 5 things Atari fans are saying about this, the concerns they have, or what they're excited about. So what I did was I went through the comments section of a video about this re-release of a console. I took all of these comments and I pasted them into an AI and asked the AI to sort them for me and see what the top 5 concerns are for the new Atari console. So what are people talking about? Well, as we can see here, the number one thing, and this I noticed without even putting this into AI, was it plays original cartridges. The excitement about playing original physical game cartridges remains a key point of interest for many commenters. The ability to use the classic game cartridges is seen as a major draw for the console. And yeah, why wouldn't it be? And one of the things that I noticed about people saying this was they hope it led to other developers doing this with their game systems. Especially they were talking about NES and Super Nintendo. And I know we've seen this in the Sega Genesis as well. We've seen actually Sega put out remastered consoles for their Sega Genesis, but overall those were kind of not that great. So the hope is this is way better. But yeah, I think that playing original cartridges is probably the biggest draw I see to the whole thing. I just think it's a lot of fun. So up next, we have nostalgia and niche appeal. It says here, several comments express nostalgia for the Atari 2600 and how it was their first console. The console's release is seen as a way to relive childhood memories and introduce a new generation to classic gaming. I think that's a perfectly normal thing to enjoy about this console. For me, personally, the Atari 2600 appeal, a lot of it is nostalgia. Well, actually, I did not have an Atari at home. I had an Odyssey too, but a lot of my friends had Atari. So the nostalgia for me is like going to my friend's house, playing Frogger, playing different various games, Pitfall, Pitfall 2, and just really enjoying those and kind of cemented my love of gaming. We all know that these consoles rely on nostalgia factor. And here we see over and over again that the console's release is seen as a way to relive childhood memories. And also, people want to share those childhood memories with their own children. And yeah, this might seem basic or elementary for children to pick up compared to what they have now. There's something universally appealing about imagining these little sprites are a character like Pitfall Harry running through the jungle and jumping over snakes and things like that. It really activates the imagination in a child. And I think that would be universal regardless of what your child's already been exposed to or not. All right, let's see what's up next. So next up is interest in classic remasters. It says people here are intrigued by the concept for official remastered retro consoles that can bring older games into the modern age. The wish is expressed for other companies such as Nintendo and Sega to follow suit, create similar systems for their consoles. Like I mentioned earlier, this is a kind of a big thing that people want. It's great that Atari does it. It's great that Sega has done it, even though they could probably do better. Partially, that's where the niche of the mini consoles came in. But those mini consoles were not able to play old cartridges. And that is a big part of the nostalgia factor, is being able to break out a cartridge, blow in it or whatever you got to do to your cartridge, and then pop it in the system, and off you go. There's a tactile thing to it that our brain perceives and is part of that nostalgia that we have. So yeah, Nintendo, I know you're not paying attention, or maybe you are, but you probably don't care because you got other things to focus on, like a brand new console coming out. You don't need to make these old ones, but there's a reason why the clone console Nintendo market does fairly well. There's a reason why you go to gaming conventions and there's a ton of AVSs out there, because people want that classic Nintendo console that you can pop a cartridge into and use HDMI for a modern television. It's just that simple. There is a market out there for it. Question is, will Nintendo tap into it? We'll see. So fourth on the list, we have HDMI output and aesthetic. It says here the inclusion of HDMI outputs is noticed as a positive addition allowing players to experience their old games with improved visuals. The aesthetic of the console is also mentioned, and the commenters are admiring its design. And the aesthetics it looks like an Atari 2600. And the only difference really is that the back of it has HDMI. Now, are the visuals improved much? Well, probably, unless you have a modified Atari 2600. It's really hard to get a good picture out of it nowadays, right? Like, I have a 2600 that I bought. It's not modified at all. And the way I have to hook it up is through an old VCR using RF, and then you take that old VCR and you run it through like a RetroTink or something like that. And by the time you do all that stuff, and you have this big Frankenstein monster of cables and cords, the picture still isn't all that great. So here we have basically convenience mixed on top of better visuals. It's kind of a win-win for that situation. I don't really think that we're seeing like remastered versions of these games. It's just you put it in, it plays the ROM file. Because I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but this is emulation. If you read the materials on the Atari website, it's emulation. This comes with like Chrome and browser capabilities. It's not original hardware. So last but not least, so here it says there's some discussion about whether the console uses emulation or original hardware. And the comments express preference for the latter. People want to play original hardware. They want that hardware to be exact one-to-one. And emulation sometimes doesn't live up to that one-to-one concept. Now, I think with Atari games, it's not that hard to emulate compared to some other systems, like something like the Sega Saturn. It's still not quite the same. You can still feel a little bit of a difference in emulation compared to original hardware. Now, originally, when I first saw this, I was like, oh, wow. Did they just upgrade the original hardware? Did they rebuild the original hardware and upgrade it to have HDMI? But no, that's not what this is, unfortunately. But the aesthetics of it make it look like it and make it kind of feel like it. So it's probably as close as you're going to get. And I'm no expert in this part. Something tells me that to redesign and rebuild that original hardware to the exact specs and then put in a way to have it HDMI friendly, have a great picture, have it be reliable, all those things, you're better off offering more value to your customer by giving them something with more capabilities than just a 2600. And we've seen that this also plays Atari 7800 games. So both your cartridges can fit in there and you get way more value out of it that way. But I digress. The really fun thing about this would be if it was original hardware, if it was exactly a one-to-one scale of what we remember. Anyhow, because you stuck around here until the end, I just want to go over one more quick point that I saw a lot of people discussing, and that is the price, right? This is $129. It's kind of pricey. It's not awful. It's not an awful price for what you're getting. You know, you're getting capabilities to browse the internet. It's going to have some kind of either PC or Android element to it. And there's value in that. But ultimately, it comes down to what do you think is valuable? Is this something I'm going to buy for $129? I doubt I'm going to pick it up at least immediately. If I saw a great deal on it somewhere, like $50, maybe I'd grab it. I think it'd be fun to mess with. But it's not something that I need immediately. It's not something that I want to run out and fawn over. You know, I have my Atari. I bought one a few years ago. Really nice shape. Cleaned it up really nice. It looks cool. It's some good shelf candy. And once in a while, when I break it out and play it, it's a good time. But that's the thing is like, I don't know if I'd break it out any more often being easy to hook up with an HDMI and without the VCR and all the cords than I do now. So is it worth it to me? But it could be worth it to you if you're a huge Atari fan. I could totally see this being something that you would like to get into. But that being said, I hope you enjoyed these 5 things that people are talking about when it comes to the new Atari 2600 Plus system. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, please let me know in the comments below. Feel free to hit that like button, subscribe. We'd love to have you here. We talk about games all the time, especially retro content or retro related content. And until next time, see you soon.